These 15 fantasy books hooked me in an instant. These are the ones that are good not only as you keep reading and you know you're going to find new 5-star reads, but from the first moment, there's something special about these. We will see stories that have an incredible mystery that you will be up all night trying to figure out. Others that are incredibly short, punchy, emotional stories. There's some with insane high stakes. And we will also see my latest obsessions, books that have made me laugh, that have made me stay up all night, and that got me completely addicted. Starting in position 15, one of my recent obsessions, and I know this is not new, but is such an incredible book, and it has made me discover my love for mysteries and for following characters that are nuanced, that are funny, but at the same time have this world building that is incredibly rich, and that is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. These series, I've already read the first and the second book in the Leviathan series, and I'm just in love. A Drop of Corruption, book 2 in this series, is one of my favorite reads of this year so far, and it is so because we not only follow characters that are incredibly easy to root for. One is this mastermind, and the other is just this reluctant hero that tries to solve mysteries, but also the world building, the magic that also really relates to that almost organic component. It's fascinating to read, and from the beginning, when you started, you are posed with this mystery. What is happening and how can you follow that? This is one of those that I was not able to put down, and we follow in position number 14 with another murder mystery, which in this case isn't as enticing. Yes, you will want to know what is happening, and is this whodunit kind of vibe, but it's done in a way that it's almost lighthearted. It is actually kind of gory at points, so it's not an easy fluffy book, but it is so funny. And although the characters are less profound than in Tainted Cup, in my experience, I love the vibes, and it felt really much like an Agatha Christie story. In this case, we have Murder at Spindle Manor. It won the SPFBO last year, and it's one of those reads that since you start reading it, you are incredibly shocked, because in this case, we will follow this world building that it's really weird. We will get this woman that is in charge of solving mysteries that are related to the paranormal, and she's thrown into this house, into this manor, and they need to solve something, and it's a suspect, and you feel like Agatha Christie. You're like, who murdered who? And it's one of those books that are continuously challenging your perspective and your critical thinking, your ability to remember. Same as with Tainted Cup, you want to remember those little pieces to foresee who is the murderer, and I found those so incredibly addictive and enticing and good from the beginning. We continue in position 13 with one of my favorites, and this is honestly a compilation of books that I absolutely love, that I know are fantastic. And in here we have one that leans more towards the sci-fi spectrum, but it does so in a way that it's fascinating. It has this idea that society is divided in different colors, and the ones at the top are the golden ones, are the best ones, and the ones at the bottom are the red ones, and there's also changes in their cognitive and also physical abilities, which is a very enticing concept to think about. And this is Red Rising. The stakes of this one, oh my god, the emotional state that Pierce Brown will make you feel. Like from the beginning, you feel truly for the character. It's incredibly mundane, incredibly easy to follow and to fall into his shoes, and you see him pass through very traumatizing events very early on, and makes you understand really what is happening with him. And as you continue these changes into a trilogy, that it's absolutely mind-blowing, and it has a scope that it's incredibly high. It starts being this academic setting with Martian elements on it. We have this almost Hunger Game kind of feeling to it, but it will evolve. We will become more political, and you will feel lost. It's one of those that not only the narration is fantastic, but I wanted to read, but I did not want to read because I was like very concerned about our characters. In position number 12, we have one of those short books that are absolutely brilliant, not only because the magic system, it's nuanced and it has two elements, not only one but two elements on it, but also the emotional attachment that you're able to create with the characters and that you see them go through. It's incredibly enticing and short, and this is The Soul of the Emperor by Brandon Sanderson. It's one of my favorite Sanderson works ever. It's not my favorite top one of all time, but it definitely is at the top. And it does so because it follows this girl that it just walks up one day, she's in jail, and she is kind of given an option. Either she can fix the soul of the emperor or she can die in that jail. So stakes are high from the beginning, and you get to see this magic system that in one hand we will have blood magic, and in the other there's this stamping in which you can create elements anew, and this is how she will craft the soul of the emperor, bring back elements, and I find that element beautiful in itself. It's also a very cozy book in a way because we will be mainly following this girl and her interactions, but the interactions are deep, are connected, and I found them very emotional. So it's just like 100 something pages, very, very short, very impactful, and a great read. Another one, which is one of my favorites of all time, period, and I've reread it multiple times already, and I always find an element that it makes something with me. And from the beginning, I am not only hooked, but I'm also relaxed, at peace, and it makes me believe in humanity anew. It's A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This one is the beginning in a series, and book 2 is also as great as book 1, but this one had a theme that absolutely broke and filled my soul, and it's this case, the fulfillment in life. What does it mean to be happy? What does it mean to be fulfilled? The passion that you have in life. How can you be perfectly happy and doing things that are good but not feeling that you are actually happy or fulfilled? It's a very slow book that will make you think, and in this case what hooked me is that it fascinated me that we have this solar punk environment. So something terrible has happened, but instead of this futuristic dystopia in which robots rebelled and they're bad and we're almost killed each other, we have created this society in which robots are on their own and we are going back to nature to nurture ourselves. And we will be following this main character. They are a tea monk and they go village by village listening to all the people's problems and creating this tea that is special to solve and to listen. And it just, there's this calmness, this idea of just taking a break that was so freeing for me. There's also a moment in which this character meets a robot for the first time in ages, and the discussions are very fresh, very nuanced, and in my case I found them very curative. I found myself crying with this book, not because it was sad, but because it really stuck a chord with me and it hooked me. Then we go to a story that it's a standalone, it's great, it has this balance of being funny, horror, mysterious, and at the same time adventurous, with characters that are very well crafted, and something that in my opinion only T. Fisher can do with A Sorcerer Comes to Call. This one hooked me from the first instant because you are set with this idea. We have this girl, her mom is a witch and she can get into her mind and control her, which is very bizarre, and it's something that made me think she also wants to get free from her. The mom wants to kill all the people, and it's this almost mystery, and there's this family found vibe that I absolutely love. This is a book that made me realize that I can be scared about horses even if I've never thought about it in my life. This is something that now I feel, and it's just that quiet balance of humor. You're having the best of time, but I'm all horrified, and just it balances completely what you feel. In position number 9, we have a trilogy in which I've only read the first book and I really enjoyed it. Granted, it took me not the first page to get hooked to it, because at least I needed to read the first 3 chapters in order to get the whole perspective of the different POVs that we will get to see here. But it is very consuming. Every chapter feels like a story in itself. It almost ends like in a cliffhanger. And this is We Ride the Storm. It has this Asian-inspired setting. There are different points of view scattered across the land, and you don't really know what is going to happen. You just know that there's this war between these different tribes, and there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of politics. You have one POV that it's in this sense almost a religious one, and they are changing. They have just been trapped and they need to change their whole lifestyle. Other that it's really political, and other that has the weirdest magic system. She hears something in her mind. She has kind of like this monster living within her, and she's able to do incredible magic as a result of that. And just how all of these combines, I was not able to stop. And it's one of those books that I found myself reading at night and not necessarily wanting to end. Position number 8, a favorite from last year that I still need to continue the series because I know it gets better. But this one, it just I have this memory so unshakable of reading this book and feeling from the beginning, oh, I love fantasy. This is why I love epic classic fantasy, because although this one is modern, it has almost this classic touch in sense of tropes, and it's perfect if you like dragons, you like these young characters that are finding their destiny. They're charismatic, but they also make mistakes, and you cannot just wait to see what happens. And this is Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I know this series will advance and will become something way darker, and that the author actually has been praised because he writes every time better and better, and I cannot wait to see that. But from what I gather with this one, I was already able to get myself into the shoes of our characters to think, oh, they really have it bad, and they don't want to be part of this war that is unfolding, but they see themselves thrown to it, and there's a little bit of reluctance of not wanting to do so. There's this trope of training with the dragon and the bond that it's created, which I found not also very endearing, but also it was done very well, and just the pacing was on point for me, and it made me reflect about good and evil, which are themes that are always interesting, if not incredibly new or have that classic feeling. Next we go to one of my favorite books of all time, and I just cannot wait for book 2 to be released. It's time to reread it, and I just love this one because from the beginning you know there's something special. Not only there's this magic system that might remind us a little bit to Red Rising, because there's this stratified society and power, and the ones at the top will drink for those that are in the level underneath. But we have this Roman Empire setting. There's a mystery also. There's a rebellion that it's brewing. Our character, it's cocky. He knows the stuff. It's one of those that acknowledgedly knows how to do stuff, but I was so enticed to read him because he also doubted himself at points, and I love to see how he displayed those elements of heroism and how he changed, he manages friendships, and I just loved The Will of the Many. I think it's such a balanced and well done book that places your expectations in one point and then changes it. Ends in an incredible cliffhanger, so if you're not ready for that, don't pick this one up until book 2 will be released this November, because really, like, it's mind-blowing. It blends different genres, which I always think it's such a refreshing thing, and it really trains our brain to suspend our belief even more. And it's just this exercise of trying to understand certain parts that are happening here. There's a puzzle, a labyrinth at some point that you need to kind of understand and to see yourself going through it, and I loved that part for me. In position number 6, we changed to a darker spectrum with paranormal vampires and horror and mystery and characters that are funny, they are relatable, and they are facing situations that are quite traumatizing, honestly. There's one scene in this book that I am not able to shake. I've read this like 2-3 years ago, and I still have vividly most of the points that happen in this book. And this is Southern's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires, I think. I'm always at a tough spot translating this book, but the main idea is that we will have these different women, and they like to read murder mysteries and thrillers, and they have this book club, and one day someone mysterious comes to the neighborhood and weird things start to happen with the children, and they will basically take it upon themselves to figure out what is happening, while this creature is very charismatic and it's trying to get into this group. So it's such a good book. I read it in just one day. I was not able to stop reading, and from the beginning you were like, ooh, this has the perfect blend of humor, terrifying scenes, charismatic characters. What else can you ask for, really? It's a great, great read. In position number 5, we will remain with a dark theme, but in this case, we won't have that humor sparkling. You will know that this is instantly a hit, a 5-star read, because you know the pain of our characters, the intensity of the emotions. You know, emotions can be positive, negative, with high and negative intensity, right? So in this one, in the quadrant, we will have intense emotions of quite negative valence. We will have that rage, that wanting to change society as a result, and this is Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Wong. It's not super long, so it's a feast on itself, that being a standalone, that it's not incredibly long, manages to pack a punch to your heart. It has these different characters that we will read, but we will be mainly following this woman that is about to become the first woman mage. And in this society, everything, it's very, we are doing this because we've been doing this for ages, and she is a driver of change. She wants to excel. She not only wants to be the first woman mage, but she wants to be the best one. She wants to help, because in this city there's this dome of magic that it's protecting everyone, but outside of this city there's this blight that is happening, and if it gets you, you will explode. And although it's not super gory, you get the gist very early on, because and the first pages you get that, so you're hooked, because the stakes outside of this dome are incredible. The mission that our girl wants to fulfill feels important, and the things that you will see are so outrageous that I was like, I read it on a holiday in which I was really like chilled, and nonetheless I was enraged. So I cannot even imagine how would I feel if I would reread it now. Position number 4, we have one that surprised me utterly, because it has some elements of economy that I was like, I don't know. But there's this quest that has different races. It feels like a D&D kind of campaign, but it has some elements that are quite profound. And although I was hooked to this book from the start, and it got my attention from the first instant, it was only after finishing it that I knew it was a fantastic book. And this is Orconomics. Absolutely incredible how things happen in this book. You think that you know how these will go, and it definitely will go in other way, which I think it's the beautiful thing about this one, that it takes these tropes that you can know a band of misfits put together in order to fulfill a mission. You know, they need to retrieve something, so there's a quest. You have these different archetypes. You have this orc, this goblin, you have the wizards. There's a little bit of something that you've already read before, but it's really intertwined with the political and socio-economical elements of the world building that are really well crafted, and you will see how that unveils a very important role in this one. The ending got me. I got this recommended by a friend, and as soon as I finished it, I was like, why did you do this to me? It's an incredible book. It has a lot of humor, so it's one of those books that feel easy to read, but it will make you think a lot. So it's just not a silly little book. It's something that will give you, again, a lot of escapism while making you think about the reflections or how similar is our society right now and its consequences. And getting into the top 3, let's get into the obsessions that I have right now, because I cannot stop talking or recommending these to my family, to my friends, and I need to share these with you. And these are not books that necessarily are the first time that you hear about them, but perhaps the one that is in position number 1 more. But in position number 3, we have Dungeon Crawl Carl, and this has been going around a lot lately through BookTube, and it's because of a reason. It's funny, it's mysterious, it's action-packed, it has a criticism around social media and how it impacts us. I'm reading Dungeon Crawl Call in between other longer or deeper series that are taking me more time, and I'm just continuously wanting to fall back into this one, because it just not only creates this sharp change on what I'm reading, because I'm not really used to read this type of books, and at the same time it's giving me so much. The characters are funny, the pacing is non-stop, and once that you start, you were rooting for characters. There's a certain level of, nothing incredible incredibly terrible will happen to our characters, because there is like a lot of these books, but you don't really know how they will solve that. And I'm already starting book 3, and how you figure it out is not only repeating the same scenes, but different quests have been introduced, and I'm getting to know a little bit more about the world, what is happening right now, and I find that incredibly fresh. In position number 2, we have a story that I'm also finishing book 2, and I'm like, I cannot stop reading. I love book 1 when I read it last year, and it is so strange because the first time that I read it, it was like, meh, this is not for me, and now this is quickly becoming one of my favorite series of all time. Like how that happens, and it just incredible characters. They are witty, they are smart, what they face, it's hilarious at the same time that you cannot stop watching, and everything seems like it's going to collide, and some of things go really bad, and you're just like eating popcorn with your brain while reading this. You cannot stop falling for them. And this is the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch, talking about both the lives of Locke Lamora and the second book, Red Seas and the Red Skies. And they're very different books. Yes, we follow the main characters and the main ideas of this group of misfits, of ragtags, and they are this band of thieves, and they're really smart. They are cunning, and they will do whatever it takes to create the most ingenious heist that you can imagine. Like, it's incredible. In book 2, we see a slightly different way of phrasing the events. In book 1, we get a lot of flashbacks in order to understand the context of each of our characters, which is really enriching and allows you to really see why each of the characters are the way they are and how all these pieces blend beautifully together. And the second one, it's not so much of that. You have a little bit of that in the beginning, but it follows a more conservative structure in which events are just flowing. But every time different stuff is happening, I cannot stop reading from the beginning. I know this is a great book, and it's just one of those that makes me incredibly happy, not because what I'm reading is happy, because I think this series manages something incredibly well, which is you see dark themes, people killed, people being robbed, things going bad, but you see these in a way that allows you to depersonalize that and just read it and admire the way in which it's done. It's a very unique phenomenon, and I love it. I cannot stop thinking about these. Actually, as soon as I stop filming, I will go and finish book 2. I cannot stop, and I will probably start book 3 right after, because there's something so incredibly addictive about this one. And it's not only the plot, but also the prose and how incredibly smart the author is, and Position number 1, we have one of my favorite books of this year, and this author has been consolidated as one of my favorites also. It does so because it blends in a beautiful way horror plus fantasy plus some elements of sci-fi, and there's also even a little bit of humor, which is a very weird blend that works perfectly for me. Like, I love all of that. I am perfectly described with those words, and this is Grave Empire by Richard Swan. This is the beginning of a new trilogy. It has everything that I love from his previous trilogy, Empire of the Wolf, and it increases it. It has a lot of horror, and you see elements that are downright fascinating, but you need to like that part of you're able to be terrified, because there's going to be these all the world, and they will have an important role, and you will see these ghost-like creatures and people being cursed about it, and there's these different perspectives that you will follow, and each of these chapters follows a different perspective. All of them are different. You will see mermen, and so there's this element of fantasy creatures, of detectives trying to figure out what is happening, and at the same time there's this adventure, these stakes, this political thread, and almost religious one, and how it advances. I was not able, I knew when I started it, I was like, oh, this is a great one, and I need to read more books that have this cosmic Lovecraftian horror element blend into fantasy, because it has something that I'm not able to forget. One of these perspectives is one of a soldier, and I love it because he is not this brilliant soldier that he wants to go to war. No, we have a fairly realistic portrait of cowardice and heroism, and he faces one of the toughest challenges, and he is in pursuit, or he faces these things that are quite paranormal, and while you're seeing them, you're like, enthralled, absolutely. I loved all of these. I hope you do too if you eventually pick one of these. Recommend me down below all the books that hooked you from the first instant, that were absolute hits for you. And thank you so much to my Patreons. If you want to join us, we have a book club, a Wheel of Time read along. We're a very cozy community, so don't hesitate to come by and say hi. We talk to each other live in Google Meet, so let's do that. See you soon.